Hello, everyone. My name is Phil Denshi. I serve as a project manager for the Island Land Record System. We are getting ready to roll out a new workflow for the handling of exemptions in our E-Submission service. And we'd like to take the opportunity today to walk through several different scenarios so that you will have a better idea about what to do when this goes into effect. So what we are testing is what happens when a conveyance document is submitted for recording in our e-submission service, and you need to make a decision about whether or not some of the requirements in the filing process are things that you may be exempt from doing. Those exemptions may include the payment of real estate transfer taxes. It could include an exemption from having to file a declaration of value document. It could include an exemption from filing a groundwater hazard statement. And there are just different scenarios that you will want to be aware of based on the type of documents that you're submitting. So the first example I want to show is an example of submitting a conveyance document, in this case a deed, that is not exempt from anything. You have to pay taxes, you have to submit a declaration of value document, you have to submit a groundwater hazard statement. And you can see all of that when you are working on the deed. So I'm going to open up the submission form for the deed, and you can see that I've already entered some of the information, and I'm going to open the edit area so you can see it a little bit better. So for the document type, I've selected a deed. There is nothing to enter for the additional transaction value. We are transferring one parcel of land, and the real estate value is estimated at $50,000. That's what it is. One of the things that you would typically see in our current e-submission service is that there would be a drop-down list associated with one of the 21 listed or enumerated exemptions that are allowed under Iowa law. And in the current workflow, you as a submitter would choose the appropriate or your best estimate about which exemption would apply. In e-submission, as we've learned how to use the process and really tried to do some streamlining, especially in the last couple of years, we realized that from a submission point of view, or even from a recorder's indexing perspective, it doesn't really matter from our point of view what the exemption is. To perform our work process, we just simply need to know, is there an exemption or not? And so what is going away is the drop-down list that you may have been familiar with, and we're replacing that with a series of checkboxes. So in this case, you see that there is a checkbox associated with the potential transfer tax exemption. There's a checkbox for a declaration of value exemption, and there is a checkbox for a groundwater hazard exemption. If you select those checkboxes, it means that you are saying, I have an exemption in this case, and I don't have to pay tax, or I don't have to submit a DOB, or I don't have to submit a groundwater hazard statement. Now, in this particular scenario, what we are saying is this is what it will look like if you have no exemptions. So you've entered a real estate value and there are no boxes checked. And then over on the right-hand side of the screen, you can see that the real estate transfer tax has been selected, and that is all you really need to do. A fairly common scenario where you're submitting a conveyance document, you have to pay the tax, and you need to attach the associated helper documents, specifically the DOB and the groundwater hazard statement. So that is scenario number one. And I'm going to go ahead and take that document, which is our test number one, and I'm going to submit that to the county. All right, let's talk about scenario number two. In this case, exemption number two, I'm going to open that up. And you can see in the document list that I only have one document attached, and that suggests that there might be some exemptions in play. So for the exemption, again, we're going to look at the submission form, and I'm going to open this up so that you can see what it looks like. Again, I have entered that there is a auditor transfer fee. There's one parcel of land being transferred. I have entered the real estate value, but I've also checked the box that says transfer tax exemption. That means that as the submitter, I'm declaring that there is an exemption in play. And because of that exemption, I'm also saying I don't have to submit a declaration of value document, and I also don't have to submit a groundwater hazard statement. And you can see that by choosing that exemption, it affected the overall fee for the document. And because this checkbox was selected, there is no transfer tax being paid. Now, if you want to see what it looks like in the other scenario, I'm going to uncheck the boxes and select save. And now you can see that the system is calculating the real estate transfer tax. We want to go back for this example and show you what it looks like if you are specifying those exemptions. Now, I do want to remind everyone that while you may not be required any longer to specify one of the 21 enumerated exemptions that are listed in the Iowa Code, you may not have to show that in our submission form, but I want to remind you that you do still have to put the appropriate exemption on the document itself so that the recorder and the Iowa Department of Revenue know that you have chosen an exemption and they know which exemption it was. That's just not important for submission, but it is important for calculating taxes and fulfilling the other requirements of the law. I'm going to finish this back out by leaving the exemptions in place and selecting the Save button. And as you can see, as I go back and review the document summary list, there is only one document that is there, and that is the deed that's in progress. And because the exemptions are chosen, I can go ahead and submit that to the county. Okay, let's do another scenario. In this particular scenario, we're going to choose a deed, and we're going to show what it looks like if you have to pay the transfer tax and submit a declaration of value document, but you wouldn't be required to submit a groundwater hazard statement. So let's take a look at what that looks like. So in the submission form, again, I'm going to open with the edit button. You can see that I've chosen deed as the document type, and one parcel is being transferred, and the same example of a real estate value of $50,000. What's happening here? Well, what it means is that you're performing a transaction, you're conveying property from one party to another. It's not exempt from real estate transfer taxes, and you do have to submit a declaration of value document. That's all part of the current law. There's nothing new about that. But there is one new thing under Iowa law that will go into effect on July 1, and that is if there are no reportable conditions on your property, there's no well, there's no hazardous waste, there's no cemetery plot, none of those things are present on the property. Under the new law that will go into effect on July 1, you will no longer have to submit a groundwater hazard statement. And so when that happens, you would check the box associated with the groundwater hazard exemption and then save it. And you can see that the real estate transfer tax is calculated. It does require you to submit a declaration of value document, which you can see I have done in this particular group, but I don't have to submit a groundwater hazard statement, and that's because there are no reportable conditions, and that's all you have to do. So I'm going to show this group being submitted again. We'll take a look at that later. And then the last group is another condition that is a little bit different, and this specifically relates to the submission of a contract or contract-related document. And I'm just going to show the first part of this without attaching any other documents. But if I open the submission form and you are executing a contract to transfer property from party A to party B, you may still have to pay that auditor's transfer fee, but there are a different set of rules relating to the payment of real estate transfer taxes, and you may still be required to submit a declaration of value or groundwater hazard statement. My point here is not to explain the intricacy of the law relating to the handling of contracts, but I did want to show you that for the document type contract or contract related, the rules are just a little bit different, but the process is the same. We'll ask you to declare, is it exempt from a DOB or not? Is it exempt from the groundwater hazard statement or not? And whatever the circumstances are, you just need to follow the same rules that you would follow today. So I haven't finished this document, and I'm not going to, just in the interest of time, but you can see that the warning message is indicating that the DOB and a groundwater hazard statement are visible and present. So that is the essence of the new method for specifying exemptions for real estate transfer taxes for the declaration of value document and also for groundwater hazard statement. One last thing I want to show you, and that is let's turn our attention and look at what this appears as from the recorder's point of view. So if I were to open the document after I've submitted and was playing the role of the county recorder, what does it look like from the recorder's point of view, especially in this case of where you have specified an exemption. So from the recorder's point of view, we're going to open that document, and we are going to open the edit button. It will appear this either way, but you can see that from the recorder's point of view, they see a message that says, yes, there is a transfer tax exemption. Yes, there is a DOB exemption. Yes, there is a groundwater hazard statement exemption, and then they know that is in play. And again, the important thing that they're going to be looking for isn't the calculation of the fee, because the system will do that automatically based on the information that you enter. But they're going to be looking at the document itself. Is the exemption for the real estate transfer tax and DOB present? Or is the exemption for the groundwater hazard statement because there are no reportable conditions, is that present? And they're going to be looking at that conveyance document to see if that groundwater hazard exemption statement that is now going to be a part of Iowa law beginning on July 1, they're going to be looking to see if that is present or not. A few last things. On our website at iowalandrecords.org, there is a resource page where you can get much more detailed information about the groundwater hazard exemption that is going into effect on July 1 of 2022. I encourage you to look at it there. We are also getting ready to distribute a short newsletter article to recorders and e-submitters with more written information about what to do with this new exemption process in the e-submission service. And of course, if you do have a question, please don't hesitate to submit an email to our support email address at support@clerks.com. And it also is helpful usually to communicate with your individual county recorder. So with that, I just want to say thank you to everybody for participating in the short training webinar today. And I hope you find the information useful. Thank you so much. Wish you all a great 4th of July holiday. Take care.